Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be interviewing Taylor. How you doing, Taylor? What's new?
Doing good. You, Jack?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Just one of it's particularly Passover at the moment, so we're not meant to eat any bread. I'm getting ready for a Seder night tonight, which is going to be long, but should be interesting. Yeah, just at home with my family and my fiance. How about you?
Bread's an overrated. Bread's
Huh?
an overrated food. Bread is an overrated food, anyways.
Is
So
it? Uh, it bloats me up, but I am a big fan of bread. But then again, I'm also a big fan of the flat stuff we eat at the moment, which is also quite crunchy and nice. But what have you been up to? What have you been up to today?
today, not a lot. Changed some brakes on a bike.
Ah,
You know,
do you do a lot of
sensor
cycling?
stuff. It's no, my daughter who's almost 9. I bought her a new bike,
Ah,
but it's because I found a deal on it. But it's a Tony Hawk, you know, BMX bike. That's
mm.
kind of small for me, but I can ride it. So I've been riding it more than she has. I bought myself a fucking bike.
So, how come? But why is it that you end up riding it more than her? Do you enjoy cycling?
Um, I hadn't done it in a while, and really just capacity. I mean, I'm a better bike rider than her, obviously, and the part of town we live in is one where I wouldn't feel comfortable with her cruising all over like I do.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. So rather than lock it up so no one can use it, you're using it instead.
I've been using it mostly. She has used it some,
A little bit. Yeah.
but I did buy some new brakes for it, and I bought a cell phone mount.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually got some cool video that nobody will probably care about of me riding my bike around and stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm. I see. What do you you've got a family, yeah?
I do
How many kids?
one that I know of.
Mm.
I've got the one daughter, and live with my girlfriend Katie. We've been together for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's us three and a cat.
a cat. Oh, nice. What sort of cat do you have?
I don't know, black one,
Okay.
a girl.
Hmm. Nice.
I've never. It's really the first pet I've ever owned,
Really?
and I didn't want it, but her mom got it for her for Christmas. So what do you do? I guess you got a cat now.
So you never had a cat growing up? Never had any other sort of pet?
Uh, we had a cat, sort of,
Mm.
but it was an outside cat. So you know, technically it was our cat, but it was really just kind of a wild animal that came and hung out with us periodically. But no, I never had really any pets. I had a roommate in college who had got 2 pit bulls,
Yeah.
pit bull puppies, and I really liked one of them, but that was just a semester.
Mm. What is it about puppies that you liked particularly?
Really, I mean, it was just the one of them. I don't know. We just got along well. It
Mm.
was Pit bulls are kind of active, fun, playful. They're durable.
Mm. Durable how?
They just don't feel like a delicate animal.
I see.
So we could, you know, go outside, whatever, wrestle around, just whatever,
Mm.
roughhousing.
Mm.
I didn't worry about it getting hurt or getting a fight with a bigger dog or whatever.
Mm. Would you say you're someone who likes to play rough most of the time?
Um, I mean, with a dog, I am because you either playing with it or you're just petting it.
Mm.
But yeah, I think that when I play in general, I if I have to worry about hurting someone, it takes a lot of the fun out of it.
I see.
And that goes for social interactions too. If I'm tiptoeing through the tulips or trying not to offend somebody, that's,
Not fun.
Well, no.
No. Would you say you've offended many people in the past?
Yeah, for sure.
What's probably one of the most memorable times that you've offended someone?
I probably can't even say it on here. Most memorable time I've offended someone. I recently, I mean, it's not very memorable, but the most recent time I offended someone was last week. I had to have a little meeting with the CEO about my email etiquette to a coworker. He's an ESE, so his etiquette standards are significantly higher than what I think is appropriate. But I mean, offended or infuriated or any of it.
Yeah, whichever one comes to mind.
Well, I try to do it anymore. I try to really not make unnecessary enemies. So especially if I don't know them. Because, well, long story short, I sort of learned a lesson a few years ago about how you can accumulate enemies over time, or people who you've pissed off. They don't forget about you like you might forget about them. So I'm trying to be a little bit less offensive to people, but I do take that online a lot. Facebook groups, wherever. I'll find an obscure stranger to sort of skewer or drag to the coals every now and then. That's fun. My job allows me to interact. I mean, I work in construction, and so it allows me opportunities to be rougher with people without actually crossing too many lines. But I don't know. I offend people all the time. I don't even. Who did I offend yesterday? I offended my ex-wife's dad by telling him he was codependent.
Well, what did you mean by you can accumulate enemies and that can come back to haunt you?
Do you want the long version or the short version? Basically, I'm 32, and I spent the first 30 years of my life being an assertive, arrogant asshole. It worked great for me. And then at 30, I found myself sitting in jail with a $100,000 bond and realized that all the people that I'd sort of pushed aside over the years, who I'd forgotten about, people I didn't give a shit about, completely lost track of, they remembered me. And when people hold grudges, if they see you fall, they're happy to come and kick if they can. So I've tried to be a little bit more responsible with how I treat other people lately.
Makes sense. What caused you to end up in jail?
I got a search warrant executed on my house by the sheriffs. I got raided for drugs.
Ah, dang.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the worst is behind me. I've got about a year of intensive community corrections left, which is basically probation.
Right. Yeah.
So happy 420. I'm not partaking.
No.
Because I get random UAs.
What's a UA?
Drug test.
I see. Now, was this more you involved in the dealing or more of an addiction for yourself?
Well, those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But I'm convicted as a dealer.
Right. Yeah. Mm. And what caused you to go into that area to begin with?
I mean, just it was just there. I mean, I got my first fake ID when I was 15.
Yeah.
So I'd been partying my whole life really, but it's just a thing. Um, and I suppose it's sort of my nature to take over things that are running poorly.
Hmm.
And the system was running poorly where I was at. I'm trying to answer the question without doing anything that would incriminate myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't ever intentional or planned out. I didn't have a business plan. It just sort of happened over time.
Sort of like, you saw this, essentially it runs like a business. You could see that it was running very poorly. You saw that there was a niche or a market which you could go in and you could help things run better in that respect, and you capitalized on that. Does that sound about right?
To an extent, yeah. Basically, yeah. Consider it is. I never actually handled customers. I was never like, here you go, here's your stuff. It was more of a franchise owner relationship, I guess. Um, I don't know if that made sense or if that was too ambiguous, but
Maybe
I,
a bit. I don't want you to get yourself into much more trouble, so maybe I should try a different line of questioning. But
well, they've already got me on those charges. So
yeah, okay, well, that's fine.
but,
If anything which you're already in trouble on, I guess that's okay to, if it's useful for typing. Um, let's see. So what do you mean by a franchise?
I'm not going to answer that.
That's okay, don't worry. So let's go towards So basically, in summary, you made some more impulsive mistakes. You went into areas which would have been regarded as illegal in America, and you got arrested, and people who you made enemies of in the past came back to bite you. And so as a
Right.
result, you learned that going forward is a question of being more responsible, it's a question of taking care of these, well, of these relationships, as it were, these different people, what they think of you, so you don't create any more enemies.
Um, yes. Yeah. I spent really only about 4 months in jail, but that's a long time to sit around and read books. And
Yeah.
so I told my mom
Mm-hmm.
when I got because um, yeah, when I was in there, I bonded out, and then I got arrested again, and then I bonded out again, and then I got arrested again. So over that 4 month period,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was a fucking nightmare for my poor mom. So when I got in the last time and I had no bond, I told her that, okay, any books you want to send me, I
Yeah.
will read. I will read. So she started sending me a bunch of these kind of new age,
Goodness. Yeah.
radical forgiveness, new agey sort of spiritual books.
Yeah.
And it's a perspective I hadn't ever entertained before.
Mm.
So some of that, some of the practical concerns, like not building unnecessary enemies just because you think you're untouchable.
Mm. So what do you mean by new agey spiritual?
Um, spiritual without being particularly denominational.
Right. So what sort of meaning or message is given from that?
Um, Mostly, I suppose I really just I mean, this bright pink book, Radical Forgiveness.
Yeah.
I never would have read this anywhere but jail. You know.
Yeah.
Just as an example. So, really, actually paying attention to a more sort of altruistic, compassionate worldview. It's really something I had never opened my mind to. So I suppose there's nothing completely earth-shattering in the content, but the perspective itself was one that I'd been, kind of aware of, but had never actually considered.
So more compassionate worldview, like how, and they're like people being more connected, that there's something greater to come from doing nicer things for other people. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, understanding and caring for the well-being or experience that you give to others. And really, I mean, my mom's books are what shaped my takeaway, but the very first kernel of that thought was born out of necessity, because I was in an 8-man cell, a 30 by 30 center block room for 4 months with 7 other guys who were all really mad about being there. So when you're in those sort of situations and everybody's testy or depressed or stressed or whatever, you got to be very careful of how you present yourself, because everybody's having a different mood that day, and little things will be the final straw on somebody's head. So and I was very concerned when I was locked up about catching charges in jail. So I kind of gave myself a rule that I couldn't fight. At all, really, because they would have charged me.
Right.
The sheriffs there didn't like me, especially.
So that you create certain rules to enable you to get out as soon as possible.
Well, just to keep my situation from getting worse.
Yeah.
I mean, finally, at that point, but no, I was in there until sentencing. After that, luckily, after sentencing, I didn't get prison time, and I did get transferred directly to rehab. Wow. And normally that's a wait, because rehabs are just booked up. It's normally a month wait, but my lawyer was able to find me a bed open the next day, so I got out of there relatively quickly.
How long ago was this? 2 years ago?
17
years ago.
2007.
Oh, 2017.
No.
Yeah, okay, 2 years ago. So, and so that, so was it? How did you feel being in an environment where there were always people who, could easily have gone off on one if you'd said the wrong thing?
Like I said, my biggest concern was the cameras around the cell. I didn't feel like I was ever in danger of anything but breaking a rule and having a sheriff slap me with some more charges. Not because there wasn't fighting and aggression, and I almost got in 2 fights. But I mean, all in all, for how much time you're spending in a tight room with a bunch of other inmates, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. So you didn't feel, although you could have easily got into fights with people who have been in prison for all sorts of charges, you didn't feel that you were in danger?
No, I mean, it was a small jail. It's a small county jail, so there wasn't, and yeah, nobody really seemed that threatening.
Okay. Would you say that you're good at telling if someone's threatening?
I'm good at, yes. And let me rephrase that. A lot of people were very aggressive and threatening, but they typically weren't towards me.
Mm.
And when I'm good at telling whose threats are something to be worried about. But I came into jail knowing a couple people in there already, and also having a bit of a reputation in front of me. So
Okay.
I really didn't get any rough treatment.
Okay, so it's more of it. The sheriffs didn't like you, but the inmates, they actually respected you somewhat.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. So, and is it perhaps that your reputation with the inmates was it also a contributor to the sheriffs not liking you so much?
I think what pissed the sheriffs off the most was that I was smart. And I understood law. I could read. Most inmates don't understand their charges, the evidence against them, really have a terrible, terrible understanding of their rights or how to defend themselves. Right. And I understood that, so I would help people read their paperwork, tell them what to do, this, that, tell them what were fucked up charges, what were legit. And basically, I was the jailhouse lawyer. And I was also clever enough to, the jail administrator really hated me. And that I got one of his staff in a situation where the jail could have gotten in a lot of trouble. And that was completely socially engineered by me, and he knew it. But it was effective. Yeah.
Right. And how what do you mean by social engineering?
I got the guard who was on duty to, I don't remember what she did. She woke up two guys in the cell next to me, and she was joking. Still, when you explain it how I will, it's very inappropriate behavior. The guard woke up both guys in the cell next to me and told them to fuck each other in the ass. So, that's not an appropriate thing for a guard to do. No. Especially when you've got a whole hallway of witnesses to it, and everything there's on camera. So, I kind of helped enable her to think that was a good idea. And then the next day, the whole cell block got in trouble. So there's phones in the cell that you can use if somebody wants to put money on it. They had cut the phones off to the whole cell block, and I was pissed, and I wanted my phone back because I was trying to get a hold of my bondsman to get out. And so I got the jail administrator back there and explained to him what had happened the night before and how one of his guards had told the guys in the next cell she'd woken them up and told them to fuck each other in the ass. I didn't think that was an appropriate thing to do. And I wanted my fucking phone back. So he got my phone back, but God, they hated me after that.
I see. Right. So so how long did you say you spent in prison?
A little over 100 days, almost 4 months in jail.
And what were you and so what area of work are you in now?
I'm the quality control manager at a precast construction plant.
Right, I see. So
precast architectural concrete. I'm sorry. So we build walls.
You build walls.
Well, I do quality control for people who build walls. When you build like school, big concrete walls, those are set up in forms and then poured and then lifted, finished, and shipped and erected. And so I'm the quality control over the whole sort of process from carpentry on the form setups through finishing to making sure they're labeled right on shipping.
Okay. So very much the quality control of this entire process of wall building. Now, where would you say you'd like to be working, say, 10 years from now?
Oh, I don't have a clue. I've been fielding the where do you see yourself 5-10 years from now question for God, ever since high school, really.
Mm-hmm.
And never ever once at any point in my life has my answer been where I'm at the next 10 years.
Right.
Or even the direction I was going in. It's I don't know what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't have a plan. My biggest goals right now is to complete probation,
Mm-hmm.
and get that done with, and then I want to move out of this state because I'm in Kansas right now, and as long as I'm on DOC probation, I can't. I'm on a travel restriction, so I can't leave. I can't move out of state. But I want to get that taken care of. I want to move across state line to Missouri because I live in Kansas City. It's right on the Kansas-Missouri line. Take care of my family and sort of right now I'm recovering lost ground from the last 2 years. So my ambitions are modest.
Yes, it's sort of getting up back on your feet, getting to starting a bit of a refresh in terms of where you're living.
Right.
I see.
And the first step in that is getting all the strings that are still attached to me, getting those off. So
I see. What do you mean by strings? You mean, say, enemies?
well, I suppose that's not what I was talking about, but I suppose that would apply. Mostly I'm talking about the legal strings. I'm still in corrections. I have to in Kansas registers drug offenders, and since I was convicted as a dealer and not a user, I have to register on the KBI website for public safety. So it's kind of stupid, but Missouri, where I'm from and where I want to move back to, doesn't register drug offenders because it's not like I was running up to kids and throwing drugs in their eyeballs. So get those off, and then that'll just make everything easier once I don't have to check in with an officer or get a travel permit to leave the area, or tell potential employers, well, by the way, I might have to leave randomly and go take drug tests. It's just a lot of headache I am eager to leave behind.
I see. No, fair enough. So you say you're born in Missouri, and
Yes, sir.
what did you do the usual high school university thing?
I did.
What was your major?
Economics.
No, why do you want to do economics?
I joined the business school because I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, but business is useful everywhere, and I know I like money. And within that, there was accounting, economics, management, business management, finance, and one of there's like 5 majors you could choose from. And I chose economics mostly out of a competitive advantage. I realized I was really good at it. It came really naturally to me, which is not true for most people. I also sort of enjoy. I mean, it's more of a system that you can figure out and play with than say accounting or finance, which is just putting the right bean in the right hole. So
what do you mean? So yeah, rather than putting the right thing in the right hole, what can you explain more about the system?
Sure. Well, I mean, economics is basically it's applied math. It's where theory and math meet, basically, and the concepts are simple, supply and demand, but the applications get more and more complex, especially as you start applying formulas and graphs. And if you've seen the supply and demand graph where supplies increasing and demands decreasing, and then you find the equilibrium point. From there, you can then sort of introduce a bunch of different variables or figure out different things. For instance, I really liked and tried to take as many of my econ courses in public economics as possible. Government's interference with the free market economy. And so I like calculating the effects of taxes, tariffs, labor unions, how these big institutions that meddled with the economy but didn't contribute anything, how they affected that.
Yeah. I see. So very much about calculating lots of different factual information, applying certain rules and principles for this purpose of the analysis.
Right.
Yeah. And when you graduated from university, did you want to take that economics anywhere?
I went into banking for
Yeah.
a while, and I didn't use actually into the economics. Some of the basics, of course, were valuable to know, but the actual advanced economics I didn't use at all. And my experience in banking was very much more finance and accounting related. This being this whole, there was underwriting, so financial statement analysis, but it was a whole different thing from the economics that I did in college, and I've never really used that except to argue with strangers online about this or that. And
Okay. And why did you leave banking?
I quit banking because I accepted a different job in a different industry, which strangely enough is a typology related business. But I quit my job at the bank, and then a month later, I got my door kicked in by 5 departments of sheriffs with canines. So I left the industry for a different job. Now, I wouldn't be able to go back to it just because banking is not a felony-friendly industry. I don't miss it. The money was great, but the money was so good, I didn't realize how much I did not enjoy the work. And so now that I'm sort of out of that, I wouldn't go back to it.
Do you prefer construction more?
I do.
What do you prefer about it?
Well, at the most base level, I like the ability to move around. It's less stationary. I think really though, with banking, especially since I was in lending more, where and lending is this sort of a weird salesy position where you pursue I was pursuing other commercial clients from other banks. So go solicit someone's business and then look at their financial information. And more times than not, after getting their business, I go, oh, wait, never mind, not lending you money. And so that sort of, to have that much work for sort of sporadic completions was, I didn't, when you hit a big one, and that's fantastic. But the rest of the time, it's just frustrating that you did all this work for not shit. So I do like in my current job that when you build a wall, even if you fuck it up, you still got a big slab of concrete. It's just, you're doing stuff and
reward. There's a concrete outcome. Whereas with this, it can easily disappear into smoke.
Right.
I see. Now, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You said you left banking for a typology role. What was that about?
So there's a system that I used. I wonder if I have. There's a system that I used when I was hiring people for the bank. And it's a small-ish company. It's called Culture Index. I can't find my book. But it's called Culture Index, and it's behavioral psychology. And you answer some questions, sort of like an MBTI test, and you get results, and it's based on different axes. It's a much more viable tool than MBTI. It's also marketed completely differently. And I got hired by the owner and founder because I took one when I started at the bank, and he offered me a job just because looking at my results. So I went and spent 3 days with him and his wife, and they trained me because in this system you're a licensee, so you sell basically consulting. This test is a part of it, and you find the right people for the right spots in an organization. So it's very much more a consultant relationship than it is just mass marketed MBTI tests.
Right.
So that's what I was going to do. I was getting ready to move from Pratt, where I was living, back to Kansas City to start doing this this consulting gig with a big personality test.
But that was, but it was while you're doing that the whole that the law enforcement cracked down on you.
That is correct.
I see. So
and so that is still an open door, though. I mean, after I got out with everything, the owner contacted me and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that you still have a job anytime here that you want." The thing is that was your licensee, so I would have to sort of, you're not guaranteed an income. It's based off your sales. So I have to build a customer base from scratch. At the time, I had enough cash to support myself while I had kind of dismal income. Right now, I really don't. But he was looking for somebody with my personality characteristics. So me getting arrested didn't surprise him at all.
I see. So what were you looking forward to in terms of being a consultant? Was it about consulting you would have liked?
It was exciting. It was new. I mean, I hadn't, like I said, I'd gotten trained in everything. I'd ordered business cards. I'd gotten an office number. I'd done everything but snag a customer. And I had done two sales calls. I tried to sell to 2 people. And neither of them panned out. One of them was still kind of open-ended, but both of them, I mean, it was sort of a long shot thing anyways, because really you need to be in person for this. It works much better that way. So when I was just kind of firing off emails before the move was finalized to kind of tangent prospects, that's all I really did. So I don't know what I would have or would not have liked about it. I do know that I like the system. The tool I used a lot, and it's way better at predicting someone's behavior than my read on people, and I'm a good read of people.
So
I respect the tool.
Right. So would you say about the system, the tool itself, was what you appreciated over and above necessarily the consulting, but you wouldn't have minded the consulting as well? Is that accurate?
I believe I would have liked the consulting because I like attention and I like being an authority person, and I like authority and attention basically, which that's what it is. We don't deal with HR departments. When we sell to clients, we will only sell to top management, C-suite management, because ultimately we'll tell people to fire. You need to fire this person, you need to fire that person, you need to promote this person, and it's very kind of uncomfortable human interaction, but it's one that C-suite executives will and do need to be the ones taking, not somebody in HR who's sharing coffee.
But so you like the more directive and the more authoritative way of communication in the consulting?
Yes, it's very no bullshit.
Right, I see. Cut straight to the point. With often some quite heavy consequences, but that's what someone in the C-suite would appreciate.
Yeah, and I mean the whole theory behind the company's sales efforts is, if we can't be direct with you about what the situation is, we don't want you as a client. We won't be right for each other. So, and the owners are pretty adamant about not wanting to water down the effectiveness of the consulting or the product by trying to appease people's feelings. People don't like what we have to say truthfully, then it is what it is. We'll go separate ways.
And what do you mean by the attention? What do you like about the attention?
Well, I never really mind being the center of attention for sporadically. I don't want to always be the center of attention all the time, but I do like being the center of attention in decent sized doses.
What have you done to grab people's attention?
Before?
Before or afterwards, whichever.
I mean, I do attention grabby stuff all the time. Right before I got in here, I dropped a picture. I was in the flow state Discord. I dropped a picture of a motorcycle that I bought impulsively. Crotch rocket is loud, things like that. I don't have any really on me, but I've got flashy jewelry. Just sort of flash without being gaudy. I try not to be gaudy.
Right. And what is it about that attention that you like? What is the what is the feeling you get? And what is it what quality of that attention do you respond best to?
Never thought about that before. I suppose that when I'm getting attention and I'm enjoying it, it sort of feels like I'm playing or interacting with life, or it's sort of an interaction. You can do well, you can fuck up, whatever. It's a game a little bit. I'm sure that's not the whole thing or the core of it. I've never really thought about the question, but there is that component of trying to, play FE a little bit.
Yeah.
And what was the rest of the question?
So sort of like, okay, so this idea of interaction and that idea that you're sort of playing with a crowd, as it were, you're creating an effect. So just to confirm, that's what you really enjoy about the attention, that you created that effect in other people.
Yeah, I suppose at my most playful.
Yeah.
If I'm in a good mood and I'm feeling playful, then I do like, doing that. But it depends on the capacity. If something's got to get done and I don't want to play, I don't appreciate. I mean, then in that capacity, I appreciate attention insofar as it's useful,
right,
and cooperative. But the minute the attention becomes unnecessary, it pisses me off.
Does it mean that you have sort of rather rapid mood swings?
I probably do. I don't feel like I do so much, but I'm sure that it's perceived that way. My ability to be firm, I really am bad at being firm at the same time as not being aggressive. So I can be friendly, I can be assertive, but I can't, that ability to, be firm on something without attacking the person, I just can't do that, really.
Interesting. Right, I just want to very quickly let my cat in. I'll be right back.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
That's interesting. That it's like you have to switch between modes: aggressive attack mode and friendly playful mode.
And that does catch people. I know that transition catches people a lot because if I'm in a bad mood, I can fake friendly a little bit.
Yeah.
About 2 irritations. Irritate me once, I can pretend like I'm not annoyed. Irritate me twice, I can pretend. Third time, it just comes out. And I know that that's caught people off guard regularly. But
Tilly, no, bad Tilly. Sorry, cat.
you could.
She needs to sit down. Sit down. So, okay, that's interesting. So it's managing the nuances of emotional expression in the moment with people can be harder. You have
Right.
certain modes for expression. They create the effect when you want and you enjoy creating the right effect, but it's managing those nuances that seems to be an issue.
I'm very poor at the nuances.
See. So, how old's your little girl?
She's almost 9.
Almost 9. Was it? Imagine it was very hard on the family when you're in prison.
Yeah, it. I mean, obviously, it wasn't. Nobody enjoyed that.
No.
Probably the hardest on my mom, really. But you know, my daughter was a champ. She went and stayed with her mom during that time. But I mean, probably my biggest regret across the board is that she was there during the raid.
Your daughter?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been hard. How are you able to bring things back together with your family?
As far as how we get along with each other, or just
the chainsaw wasn't turned on when it fell behind.
Sorry, I gotta go outside to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Our bonds went back together pretty well. I mean, my mom was so relieved that.
It's frozen a bit. Taylor?
At one point.
Sorry, I missed a bit there.
Okay. My mom was relieved when I got out and got my shit back together.
Yeah.
Obviously. Katie, my girlfriend, was super loyal and through the whole fucking thing. And my daughter, you know, I had sole custody ever since she was 18 months old until the raid. So, you know, 9 months with her mom didn't weaken that bond. It did introduce her mom back into the situation, which is its own set of bullshit. but no, I've been very lucky.
So just to confirm, her mother is not your girlfriend.
Excuse me?
So is her mom not your girlfriend?
No. Her mom is my ex-wife.
I see.
So that was not destined to last.
No. You okay telling me what in terms of what wasn't destined?
We met when I was in college, and she had been living in Tampa and working at the Hard Rock Cafe down there as a poolside waitress and sort of doing some little modeling gigs, basically being, you know, hot beach chick. And I was in college, and so when we met up over that summer at a friend's birthday party, and she came back to college with me, we got along really well at college because we could go into it's an artificial environment. It's a social environment. We were cool. We, you know, partied hard and looked good, and that was all fun and dandy. But then after college, when we had a kid and bills and had to make decisions together, we couldn't actually make decisions together at all, because neither one of us could really conceive of not being the ultimate authority.
So in terms of compromising on what you wanted to do.
Yeah, we both have very assertive personalities, but don't ultimately make decisions in the same way at all. She's very impulsive, short-sighted, irresponsible, and plans on and thinks that she can just, whatever disaster she creates now, she can talk her way out of and smooth over later. And I'm going, bitch, you're fucking up our money. I'm making a lot of money, you know. It just didn't work at all.
It's unfortunate. And
I'm grateful that that it was a short marriage. It was we were only married a year. We were together 4 years. We were married 1. And I'm very happy that I didn't spend a decade or 2 agonizing in a terrible marriage like so many other people do. So I kind of feel grateful, really, that I was able to get in and get out.
so saying that breaking out of a marriage was an easier thing for you than it would have been for most.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, by the time she got served because I filed for divorce, and by the time she got served, oh my God, I was just ecstatic.
Okay. Now, you said also that you've managed to accumulate quite a number of enemies. Have you managed to accumulate a good number of friends where you are in Kansas?
Oh yeah, tons of them. I got friends here, I got friends all over. A lot of good friends.
And were they also very helpful when you were in your, essentially seeking bail?
Yeah, and it's funny when shit hits the fan, who comes out of the woodwork and really steps up. And I had my friend Jess and Pratt did a lot to keep my shit together, like from completely going crazy during that time. She also found me the bail's bondsman who would drive an hour and a half to bond me out on a Saturday and take a check from a guy. You know, I mean, she really did a lot for me during that time because Katie, my girlfriend, and my daughter, after my initial arrest, they were both witnesses. I was not allowed to have contact with them. So I was basically stuck in a house in a town with no job, no family, and just kind of, on the loose. So she helped a lot. Eric Strauss and Audra Brown were crazy helpful. Forever in debt to them, because one of the things that they did when I bonded out was the Pratt district attorney, even though Katie was at the house when I got raided, and even though she's obviously innocent of things, like they let her go at the scene, the DA pressed all the charges on her that they had pressed on me. And that's a legal maneuver to try to get a snitch. Basically, they charge her so that she would testify against me. And when those warrants hit for her arrest, which I saw it coming, I talked to Eric and I said, "Hey, you want a house guest?" And he said, "Send her out." So she went and stayed with Eric and Kim for a while, and then she went and stayed with Audra for a while, and so that was super clutch because
Now these, so you say Eric is in talking with famous people, Eric?
Yes, sir.
Ah, fantastic. So are these all very long-term friends of yours?
The ones I just mentioned are not. But I do have very long-term friends. I mean, I'm back in Kansas City, which is where I'm from. So I've got my oldest friend, Kevin, who I don't see a lot anymore because he's got 3 little kids, all younger than mine, and doing that whole family thing. But we've been friends since preschool. I've got this in June. There's the Rob Zombie Marilyn Manson concert that Katie and I got tickets to, and I'm going with David, one of my best friends from high school, and Perry, another friend from high school, and my uncle and his wife, actually. So yeah, I've got a lot of good long-term friends and newer friends, and I am not good at keeping in touch with people, but I don't feel like things are lost during gaps. I feel like I pick up very easily where I left off with people, and 95% of the time they do as well. So
right. So it's like for you, these friendships are something which are very flexible. You can sort of see people you haven't seen in ages, and that's fine. You don't need to check up on them very much.
Right. I mean, if somebody's a friend, they're a friend until something happens to change that. But generally, once I consider somebody a friend, that doesn't really change. That's pretty durable.
Right. Okay. And so you haven't been someone who easily changes the status of your relationships with other people.
No.
Okay. It's also like, are you a friend? Are you not a friend? Simple like that.
I mean, most people don't fall into either category.
Okay.
Most people are neither.
Yeah.
If I consider somebody a friend, there's, I mean, they've probably demonstrated, that they're they're good people who I enjoy being around over a period of time.
Right.
It's I suppose it's not a real easy mental compartment for people to get into, but once you're there, you're pretty well there. For somebody to break out, for somebody to be a friend and then go to not a friend,
Yeah.
it means they did something to make them really fucking not a friend.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Makes sense. I think I'm pretty much done in terms of my questioning. Also, I need to get going soon. But yeah, I think SLE makes sense. And I'd say from that, well, you talk about the impulsiveness of you compared to your girlfriend, so compared to your ex-wife. Fair enough. But we do also see someone who is very much about taking the more impulsive line, going into or going into drugs, as it were. You saw an angle, you saw something which could be fixed, made better, went into it, and it led to long-term problems. You can see the long-term outcomes of the decisions leading to problems of you having to go to prison, for instance. There is that, so there's some impulsivity in that. There's also the fact that you enjoy your job now because it has a real clear, concrete outcome, and that you like to do things. Do things which lead to something which is clear, which is it has a physical form. There's no uncertainty there. You also your appreciation of certain dogs which are more durable. The idea you like to play rough, and the idea that you seem to be very confident in terms of analyzing threats around you, not feeling intimidated, but knowing how to play the game, so you don't get yourself into any sort of immediate physical trouble. And that what seemed to bite you in the ass later was more long-term outcomes of closer personal, well, I'll say closer, but of relationships with people, managing your enemies correctly. And often that difficulty in creating and accumulating more and more enemies until it becomes a big problem further down the line. So all this suggests to me stronger extrovert sensation, most likely as a leading function. Also weaker introverted intuition and introverted ethics. It's interesting though that with introverted intuition, you seem to find some degree of, well, a more compassionate, long-term view of what to do in terms of, and you called it as to be something sort of spiritual in that book which you read when you were in prison, and it forced you to spend more time reflecting rather than doing things. So that suggests to me to be more of a suggestive function. In terms of introverted ethics, well, there's more of a simplistic.
Suggestive, I'm sorry, would be where for an SLE?
Sorry, that would be the 5th slot of Model A.
Okay.
So that would be like,
so that would correspond to an NE DOM?
well, for an NE DOM, it would be introverted sensation.
Okay.
So for an SE DOM, it would be introverted intuition. So it's like the thing that dualizes. Yeah. The introverted ethics, on the other hand, where it does show in terms of having certain friendships, they're seem quite simplistic. If someone's a friend, they're not really going to change in terms of being a friend. But you don't seem to put that much effort into checking in on these friends. They tend to be people who, once you meet up, it's like there's been no change. And it's very easy in terms of just seeing them again. But at the same time, should you ever feel the need to get out of a relationship, say with your ex-wife, it was something which you did very decisively, and you weren't racked over with much pain about it. You made a decision, you were able to detach and seem to be quite objectively move forward on that basis. Does that sound about right?
Sounds dead on.
Okay. So in terms of introverted logic and extroverted logic, we can see plenty of extroverted logic. It's the idea of seeing things in terms of, okay, this is something which can be made better, where you decide to go into the drugs industry. There's also, in fact, in terms of financial managing and the enjoyment of economics, where it is about that combination between theory and practice you talk about, that fluid interplay between introverted logic and extroverted logic. Now, so you see that natural balance, lots of good extroverted logic, but also, I think, more of a valuing of introverted logic. And I say that because of how you approach the culture inventory, culture index. Where that's something you wanted to work as a consultant for that business because you believed in the tool. It wasn't a purely opportunistic, pragmatic response. You actually thought this tool does something fantastic. You believe in that system. And through that, you wanted to become a consultant for that company, especially. And it seems to me that if it weren't for the fact that you were arrested and that you were in prison, you had to rebuild. Oh, goodness.
It's just me, I guess. I'm reading the live chat. I don't know what happened to Jack. It's just me, I guess. I'm reading the live. Vladimir Vincent. I like what you're saying.
Hi, Taylor. Sorry about that. I ran out of battery.
You're all right. I'm glad it's you, not me. Yeah, I've just been reading the comments in the live stream.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at juggling live streams and looking at comments, but
Let's see.
so no harm, no foul.
Ah, very good. Okay, so I'm going to continue my analysis because I've got to get going. Yeah, so that fluid interplay of introverted logic, extroverted logic. I think introverted logic is more valuable because of that belief in the system. In terms of extroverted ethics, so yeah, that enjoyment of being in the spotlight, not all the time, but the idea that you've actually created a reaction in people and having to interact with people in that respect. Also, it's interesting though that it's in a weaker position, in my opinion, because you're not able to easily adjust the nuances of your expression from one moment to the next. You can go friendly, you can go tough, but there's that difficulty with, well, mixing in the perfect amount of assertiveness and friendliness at the same time, which is something I'd expect an SEE to be able to pull off a lot better. Does that make sense?
It does. So, and I expected to be SLE. Obviously, I'm kind of a cliche of my type, from what I understand of it. What would you say SEE is the second? If you had to do a fallback for me, would you go SEE?
I'd probably go SE, but also looking at maybe LSI or even LIE as being potentials, but LIE doesn't make so much sense because of, well, the fact that long-term perspective seems to be a difficulty. Even when I asked you about the long term, you frequently express that lack of confidence in the long term shaping up like the present. So I'd even also offer ESC as a possibility in terms of if you're going down like alternatives. Yeah, I mean, the thing with SE, as I said, there's that difficulty with, well, I say adjusting emotional expression to the moment. This is not in the strongest position. Also, that appreciation of the system and the fluid interplay between both extroverted and introverted logic, which makes it SE seems less likely. Now, in terms of the introverted ethics, I can see that it's not something which will hold you back. And at the same time, it seems to be more of a simple sort of categories in terms of this is a friend, always a friend, that person, not a friend. Most people haven't really decided. And we didn't really go into much nuance in terms of what exact level of closeness you want to decide with that particular person.
It's there's not a lot of nuance there. My girlfriend is an ESI, I believe. She's an FI Dom, and she describes she says I have very childlike emotions. Is the word that she's described it.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't say that rules out SCE, but it's more in terms of deciding how you're going to work with someone, deciding that particular relationship. Usually with SCEs and this ESIs, they're able to create just the right amount of closeness or an intimacy or even psychological distance with people depending on the situation and the needs of that relationship. So,
I don't use that at all. I really don't even notice it a lot. It's really uncomfortable when people try to use that with me because I just don't respond to that sort of closeness, distance. It's just not a language I speak really, and so you know, I end up going, "Hey, why the fuck aren't you answering your text messages, man? I've been looking for you," and people are like, "Oh my god, I'm trying to get some space." Oh, they didn't text me and tell me you're trying to get some fucking space.
No, and that's fair enough. Because, well, SE is also quite independence-minded, but it's more that they're able to reach an agreed level of closeness with people. Whereas in that situation, it seems to me that someone else had a different idea of how close you'd be to them, how often you check up on them, and you had a different idea, which would be more of distance. And would be a difficulty.
I work with an SCE closely, and we have a very adversarial relationship. And so it's interesting watching him. I believe he's an SCE. It's interesting watching him try to avoid me.
Right.
And I just completely don't get that it's like he's sending a message or communicating to me. I'm just like, hey.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta get going. Gotta get along to this dinner. But it was an absolute pleasure talking
for the time.
If you have any further questions, please message me on Facebook and I'll be able to answer when I can.
You're excellent at what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Take care now. Bye-bye.